Alright, three, two, one, let's go. Got another drawing video for you. This one is going to be a little bit different, going back to my roots, doing a comic, but not quite what you expect. Now, you might expect me to use some of the water on that brush as a pre-canvas. And first thing off, going straight into a smiling guy with his hand up and another one across his chest. Now, I went into this drawing not knowing where I was going to go or how I was going to get there, but we just went with it. Really wanted to change up my expectations of what was to happen. And so I gave this, we're gonna call him Waiter, gave this Waiter guy a big old Naruto haircut. And I was going to add some legs and feet, but decided to subvert the expectation and instead gave him like a car to move around in with his own personal driver and everything. Now, in my headpiece, I was like, now this is starting to look like an important person. Might as well put him in like some sort of parade, you know what I mean? And so I had an idea that the next little frame of this comic was going to be not what you'd expect. Again, going for the David Lynch kind of feel of throwing you into a place where you least expect it. However, it's still connected enough where it's not just random images one after another or side by side. And so the waiter is now perplexed, just as perplexed as I am, really. So kind of a stand-in for me. And so I have the waiter now hunching over, examining the vehicle that he actually exists in. Now, I'm not sure what the waiter is going to be, like what he assumes he's going to figure out. Maybe we could get ourselves into the mind of the creation. And so going back to the first panel, fixing up some lines. I didn't want to have too many floating lines connected up in a way where it's cohesive. So the vehicle is really coming together, adding just enough details, maintaining that 45-degree angle. I don't like how that smudge on the passenger seat looks, because it looks like another person. It's supposed to be like the contours of the leather seat. You'll see me go back and try to fix that later. Maintaining details to confirm that this is a vehicle, adding the driver, adding the steering wheel. Went for a little bit of a wrist stretch at this point. I was laying down on and I was putting all my pressure on my right elbow, and so that was causing some issue. So I decided to stretch it out and then sit down on my crisscross applesauce instead.
Okay, so on the next one.
So to keep going with this subversion of expectation, this non-comic, I'll call it, has the waiter now, in a way, in a sense, lifting the vehicle up over his head. In a way, the waiter is searching for answers just as much as I am. I like how the hair is getting bigger and bigger. I originally intended for the waiter to only lift up the first half of the car and then the second half to remain underneath him. But I drew too much of the car, and so I had to bail on that idea. Wasn't sure what... Yeah, I want to keep that towel on the right hand. I wasn't sure what I was going to put underneath the waiter. And I really, searched the microcosms of my mind and try to think, what's the last thing I would expect to find underneath me if I lifted up the vehicle that I was sitting in. So the answer was like a Super Mario mushroom level up, a battle axe from like Gauntlet Dark Legacy, as the barbarian, and then just a little sprig of broccoli. I enjoy broccoli. Wasn't sure what to put as his legs, but I knew essentially I was trying to put the entire world underneath him. So I might as well put a little globe. Little continents, little ice caps.
You can get up 3,000.
Now, at this point, I try to put myself into the mind of the waiter, and I thought, well, if I lifted up my vehicle and I found literally the entire world underneath me, I would be pretty freaked out. And so I wanted to draw something akin to the Scream painting. Big goofy screaming mouth, big old goofy teeth, a spiral eye. Almost looks like a crazed Bart Simpson from like the first season of Simpsons. I just have the mushroom and the battle axe poking up. And so the waiter has completely lost his mind. And at this point, I was gonna go for some sort of like Flintstones thing, where like the animal in the object or in the machine looks at the camera and says a little, it's a living. Here goes my coughing fit. But I didn't want to fully commit to that, just because I recently lost my job, and so I'm more sensitive to people identifying themselves with their occupation. So instead of having him wonder if he's going to get paid, I just have him wondering. It really makes you think. It puts it all in perspective. I don't even have the car being held up by the waiter or anything. At this point, it's just floating in space. Now, one thing I noticed from my previous drawings is that it seems like I just kind of stopped them abruptly without really finishing the entire idea or motif. And so on this one, I wanted to go one step further and actually, like, as I mentioned before, not just fill in all the gaps. With that little stick figure kid, I accidentally put him in a place where the sidewalk cut through his head, so then I just gave him a smile. Now you can't really see it. That's pretty good. And so with the marker, I'm going in and adding in some more shading to like the tires, the leather seats, the mouths, the open mouths. When there's just too much empty space, it's hard to differentiate what is and isn't a drawing, or what parts are associated with which aspect.
I think blue skies.
Now at this point, this is kind of interesting because I only have the one paintbrush right now, and so I'm focusing on using lighter pigments first and then darker pigments second, so then it doesn't completely like overshadow each shade. So another water base, putting water down, so then the paint can be more fluid, spread across the canvas more easy.
Okay, so
what I really like about the punchline of this comic is that it is like a non-joke. It's not really supposed to be funny. It's just kind of perplexing, confusing, if you will. And so I decided to use this new like parchment color for the guy's hair. Make it kind of like I said, I was going for the Naruto, but didn't want to make it too on the nose, so I went with like a lighter shade of instead of going full yellow. The paint starts to overpower the marker, so I wasn't super happy about that. This is me cleaning off the paintbrush. Let's see, blue next. So spreading out the blue across each panel firstly, and then going back in and smearing it across the sky. Now I get it, you know, the texture of the strokes of the paintbrush strokes isn't very sky-esque. I'm looking forward to getting more brushes so then I can use different textures, different brush patterns. For the time being, it works as a vehicle to put the blue on. So I'm making this guy gray. Really, really gray. No specific brush pattern. On this one, I'm really focused on using the brush properly. That way it prolongs the life of the brush. Full gentle strokes that utilize the entire length of the brush. Previously, I noticed that I was using the corners for my past work, the bartender scene. Really coming along. Almost reminds me of like an impressionist work. Tiny little bit of red for the Mario mushroom. I don't think I remembered to paint the one at the bottom right corner. Also, I left a big old red mark. Oh, I did. Good. Good, good, good. Left that red streak. Not sure what to do with it. Just left it. Sometimes it's best to just leave good enough as is. Get rid of the red. Onto the green.
You know what?
But I recognize that it was easier to just shade in the globe with my pink green permanent marker or pen. The battle axe, I believe, remains unpainted throughout the length of this video, giving the vehicle, the car, really nice purple. Very nice purple. I really like how it looks in that first panel. Other way, it's almost like glossy and shiny and
You know what it is.
reflective of the light. Definitely went overboard and completely erased the details of the car. I allow it. Again, looking forward to getting more brushes to really give each object its own texture. Finally, going with this nice dookie brown. It really looked turd-horrific when I first put it on, but luckily I was able to spread it out in a way where it looked more like a road and less like what you'd leave on the road. At this point in the drawing, I was getting pretty fatigued. This was one of the longer videos I had done. I was really proud of myself. I hope you enjoyed it. 3, 2, 1. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.